Okay, so Michael, you mentioned a couple of different pieces on the landscaping. You mentioned IBDs, which is an independent broker dealer. You've mentioned, the RIA route. There's a lot of different entry points into this field from just a platform standpoint. And I will tell you, having worked with a lot of new and aspiring financial planners, it's really overwhelming and confusing because they don't want to oftentimes, and again, there's some outliers on this, they don't want to be in just a pure sales role. They want to have support, they want to have training, they want to have all these pieces. How do you navigate this? Because I know I talk to people who just write off the broker dealer channel or just write off, and maybe rightfully so. I don't know. Again, some of this is going to be, dependent on their situation. But how do you think about this? Like entry points from different platform standpoint? Because you mentioned hybrid, independent broker dealer, RAA. Those are three of the most common. What I'm going to stop and just ask, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I've posted about this, I've wrote about it, I've talked to candidates about it. I really am firm agnostic, Hannah. I have seen so many well-run, well-intentioned, doing right by the client businesses in every single model that I believe it's so team specific
Yep.
that you really have to look into the team and not think about the larger firm structure. That's my personal belief because I've had exposure to thousands of firms working in consulting and hiring capacities, and I've seen so many good teams on so many different platforms. So we are product and platform agnostic. We genuinely believe that there are good practices that are doing right by the client in every single discipline across wealth management. Now, I think as a wealth management professional, you have to think what best aligns with where I want to be long term, where can I get the best training and learning. Also, to recognize I'm not tied to the firm that I'm being hired by for the long term. Now, it's important to see if there is a long term career and development path. I think that's something that every wealth management professional should really vet as they're interviewing and evaluating new opportunities, but also recognize as a new wealth management professional, how can I get really good training and exposure to multiple disciplines of the business? That's really going to serve me the best for the long term. And hopefully, there's a long term career path within the firm that initially hires me. But we also know professionals in general are not always going to be tethered to the firm that initially hires them. They're going to have multiple career moves. So I like all firms. I really believe that you can get the necessary skills, the necessary training at all of the different firm structures we mentioned. What I think is important is for the candidate to really ask the deep questions as they're going through the interviewing process and remembering that they're entitled to audition the hiring firm as well. It's not just the hiring firm that's vetting them. They're vetting the hiring firm and making sure it is the right fit, right? So if there's questions about financial planning philosophy, if there's questions about fee structure, if there's questions about product recommendation, if there's questions about different levels of exposure they're going to get to different aspects of the business, ask those questions and really understand the role. If you want to learn about career growth and development, ask the firm to cite examples of people that have grown in their respective roles, how they got into the firm and where they are today and how they were able to accomplish that. So I know it's not this clear-cut answer on which firm is best, but I genuinely believe from engaging with all these different firms that there are great practices in all disciplines that are serving the client, acting in a fiduciary capacity, regardless of firm affiliation. And it's really for the candidate to understand the role, career progression, and anything else that's important to them as they're evaluating their options.
What's that? There's some famous saying about how it's like the manager. Like that's one of the biggest indicators of a job satisfaction is like who's actually like directly who are you working with? And I think that translates. One of the things I think that was so helpful in my career is I started out in the independent broker dealer channel, and the work that I did in that channel versus the RA was the exact same for my client. Like my clients got the same high quality financial planning advice. And so it really, and again, I go back to some of my I'm in Dallas. Some of the best planners I know are in that channel. So it really is. Unfortunately, it's not as clear cut. But again, like you said, there's some really, really great teams.